Hi.
We know a lot of you, and we're new to a lot of you, but we love this church.
Yeah.
We have a long history with this church. Frank was at Gordon Conwell, and when he graduated, we came directly to this church, and it was just wonderful, except for one thing, and that was that it was on fire. And so we had to do a lot of thinking about that, and we had a coat room out here and clothing room. Remember that, Beth? And somehow the electrical system had sparked, and the whole front was on fire. So for quite a while, we met over at the Catholic Church. They were so kind to us to let us meet over there. So we've had kind of a lot of switching around that year.
Yeah, so I was here 84 to 87. And so a lot of familiar faces and a lot of unfamiliar faces, so it's great to be here. Since that time, let me go to my slides here. Okay. This is our family. Obviously, our kids are grown now. And
this guy was 3 years old when we were here. Now he's married to Kirsten, and they have a little girl. And our little girl is our only grandchild so far. And she's. We have one grandchild, and that is our grandchild.
Frank, I think you're loud enough.
okay.
Yeah, we can hear you, but we have difficulty.
Okay.
That's why, yeah.
Good. What would we do without Johan, huh? Keep us going here. So that's Matt and Kirsten, and our little girl's name is Camden. And then the next slide is maybe not here. Well, we'll see what happens.
There we go.
There. The girl in the middle is our daughter Amy. She also attended this church as a little girl, and she's a sweetheart. She's now the executive director of the YMCA in Tucson, where we live. Matt does international work. He's an international sales rep all over the world, and so he's had kind of a rough time lately with all of the travel arrangements and countries you couldn't go into or whatever was going on. So that's our family, and the miracle is they all live within about 4 miles of us. So we get to see them.
Okay, let me just share a little bit of the history. After we left here, we went back to Tucson, Arizona. Well, actually, we went to New York, outside of New York City for a couple of years, and then to Tucson in order to church plant and established a church there. And in the course of that church plant, we'd always been interested in missions because we were in the Peace Corps back in 1967 and 1969 in Turkey. When we first got the bid for Turkey in the Peace Corps, you sign up and then they give you a bid for a country. And when we got that bid, we didn't even know where Turkey was. I mean, we had to get a world map and an atlas and look and see where it was. But we were there 2 years, and it was during that time that the reality of who Christ. By the way, we were not Christians. We grew up in a church, both of us churched, but not Christians at that time. And so when we went into the Peace Corps, being in a Muslim culture really forced us to examine who we were and what it means to be a Christian, because there was a radical difference between Turkey is and has been 99.9% Muslim. And so we came in with this Judeo-Christian worldview, and then fitting into that and seeing the radical differences there were, really began to work on both of us. And there were two seminal events that happened while we were in the Peace Corps for me. And the first one was, God knew what He was doing. He took us to where the whole thing started. It all started in Israel and Turkey. Turkey is 2/3 of the Bible is written or about what's now Turkey at that time, part of the Greek Empire, and Roman Empire. So, the church I grew up in, it was taught from the pulpit that the Bible was a great book and a lot of great stories and so on, that Jesus was a great teacher, but it wasn't factual. So what does God do? God took us to Turkey, where it all started. And so I went down to Ephesus one time. We went down there, and I saw a little plaque on just I don't even know what it was. It was just a little plaque, and it said that the Apostle Paul had been here. And they went, well, wait a minute. Paul, is this stuff actually true? Did Paul actually exist? Was he actually here? And so I started from that point on reading the New Testament in order to find out, is this really factual stuff? Is this real history and real geography? And then later on, went down to Jerusalem, and there had another encounter with the Lord. And those two seminal events for me were what eventually propelled me to become a Christian.
When we finished with the Peace Corps after 2 years, we came back to the United States, and we were kind of disoriented in our own culture because we had been you have to understand, at that time in Turkey, we never got a phone call. There weren't any phones. We lived in a city of 240,000 people, and there was one phone, and it was at the bank, and it didn't work. So we never spoke with anybody back home the whole time, and we very infrequently got letters. They would get lost in the mail or whatever. There was no texting, there was no email, there was none of that. So for 2 years, we were completely cut off from our family and our culture and everything. And it was a time of real soul searching. Some of you are old enough to remember that the Vietnam War was going on during that time. And we were kind of, because we were working for the United States, the good of the United States, we were kind of like on a timeout from being drafted. Well, when we finished up, guess what happened? We came back to the States, and Frank's draft notice was waiting for him at my parents' house. And so he went and talked to his draft board, and he had been in contact with them, and they said, well, you've been working for the country for 2 years, and you've got your master's degree halfway finished. Go ahead and finish your master's degree, and then you're going to be drafted. So he went ahead, and he finished his master's and turned 26 at that point. So he was no longer eligible. But we were still searching, and we didn't even know where to search. But we had some friends in San Francisco, so we said, let's go visit them. We got in our car. It was a blue Rambler named Fat Dog, and we drove that car miraculously up the coast and made it up to San Francisco. Well, when we got up there, we still didn't know what we were doing, and we looked in the Mother Earth News because we said, well, let's check out communes. But we don't want to go to a commune where they're sleeping around and doing dope. And we just want to do some nice commune. And so we looked in the Mother Earth News and found that right near there were some professors from Berkeley who had started an ecological commune up in Oregon. And we said, okay, well, we could meet these guys and go back to our friend's house. We wouldn't have to expose ourselves to anything weird. And so we met with the professors, and they're like, yeah, well, we're writing an ecology textbook. And if you would be willing to edit it, you can come up and live on our organic farm in Oregon for the summer. And we're like, dude, that sounds good. So we did it. And we went up there. And the first thing that happens is all these people on the commune, there are like 9 couples, and they're married, and everything's cool, and they're growing organic everything. They said, would you like to go to a prayer meeting? And we said, pray for what? They said, pray for everything. It's just a prayer meeting. So we said, okay. So we went to the prayer meeting, and people in the whole area of Southern Oregon were getting saved by the hundreds. And they were having prayer meetings all over the place. And we went to one that was a campfire, and all these people were praying around the campfire. And we just kind of walked right into Jesus, right then and there, and we never turned back. So that was kind of the beginning of our journey. After that,
I'll pick it up.
Okay.
So after that, then, a whole bunch of stuff happened. We ended up going back to Tucson, Arizona. We had gone out there because my parents lived south of there. And we got involved in work in Turkey. And so we started to go back. In 1997, we started to go back to Turkey as Christians, as missionaries. Mm-hmm. And I was pastoring a church at the time.
In America.
So, yeah, in Tucson. And so we could go back, and I had time that I could devote to missions. So we started taking teams over to Turkey. Now this is a map of Turkey. And how many of you have been to Turkey? In Turkey. Okay. Well, this is the whole country of Turkey, and let me. There we go. This is Istanbul, and this is up. This is the capital. What used to be used to be called Constantinople, and is now the capital. A wonderful place to be, but Istanbul is the only city in the world that's on two different continents. So it's on the European continent, but it's also on the Asian continent. And so here's one of the this is one of the Sultan's places, and the boat, you would take a boat from one side to the other. Again, another picture of the boats. This is Hagia Sophia, which is the very famous church that was established back in the 300s and is now a mosque. It's been converted to a mosque. Okay, so we started in 1997, 1998. We started to go back to Turkey, and when we started back there in the northern Aegean region, let me show you where that is. Okay, this is on the western side now of that big map that we just saw. And there's a city there, Izmir. Do you see it on the left-hand side there? Okay, that's Izmir. And north of that is what's called the Northern Aegean. And we started, Caroline can tell the story of how we got involved with the Northern Aegean. Go ahead.
Well, when we got back there, we started meeting other people who were working in Turkey as well. And we started walking around the seven churches area. We would take all these people from Arizona, the people from all over the West actually went with at one time or another. And they would fall in love with Turkey, but they would only eat ice cream bars because they didn't like the food. But that was okay. They could handle that for 2 weeks. But what happened was that work started to grow and grow and grow, and we began to realize that the Lord was wanting us to be involved in church planting in Turkey. So we did start that work, and I'll kind of skip ahead a little bit because I don't want to go on too long here, but we did start churches in the Northern Aegean, and one of the experiences we had there was, if you'll remember, Bergama, which is Pergamum. Where are we in the pictures? Okay. Pergamum, the church of Pergamum, is known as the seat of Satan. That city was horrible.
Yeah, here's the site of the seven churches, in the book of Revelation. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's Pergamos. You see it up at the top there? Okay, that's what Caroline is talking about. That's now called Bergama, but it was called Pergamum in the Greek.
And it was known as the seat of Satan. And all the ruins of the Acropolis, all that kind of stuff are there. So we had a team there, and our team walked up to the top of the Acropolis, way, way up, and looked down in the city. And it's like one of the members of the team was just praying, and she started crying. And she said, if we don't tell them, who will? Who will do that? And we speak Turkish, obviously that was something, and we were familiar with the area. So that's what we focused on, was that particular area. And I'm going to skip ahead to tell you the end of that story because I don't want to run out of time about it. But that was so many years ago that we started prayer walking and praying for that area and trying to meet with people and trying to get, understand how the Lord was moving in that area. And we got on WhatsApp, if you have that app on your phone, we got a message from two friends of ours who have become Christians in Turkey. They're a Turkish couple, and they have started a church in Bergamo. So now the seat of Satan has a functioning and thriving Christian church. And we're so excited about that, and we can't wait to go back and see them.
Yeah, so when we started church planting and taking teams into that area, there were no known Christians. We inquired many people, are there any believers in this whole area? And there weren't any at that time. Now there are church planters in every one of those little areas. This is Ivalik, one of the places, and there's now a thriving church there. With church planters and actually two full-time pastors in Bergamo that we just talked about, or the old Pergamum. There's about 5 or 6 churches with church planters, and there's a prayer house there. And God has done, over the years, we have been absolutely amazed at what God has done in raising up churches in this area. You hear about Turkey and you think, well, that's a Muslim land. It is. It's 99.9% Muslim, but God is at work, and not just in Turkey, but all over the Middle East, and I'm sure Johan can attest to this. There's a mighty move of God. Iran, interestingly enough, has been the fastest growing mission field in the world.
And it's the women.
Yeah.
It's the women who are coming to the Lord and leading in that whole movement.
So it's been really incredible to be part of that and to see it, to be in on the ground floor and to see the growth of the church there. Okay, let's go on. Okay, this is another picture of Ivalik. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, another one. Yeah, this is, you can see it's right on the coast, a beautiful, beautiful place. Keep going. Okay, and this is Ephesus. How many of you, this is Ephesus, and we have in the New Testament the letter to the Ephesians. In fact, right now I'm teaching a Bible study, and we're going through the book of Ephesus. We've actually been in it since January. Okay, so this is the amphitheater in Ephesus. Just keep going. And that's the library, Celsus Library in Ephesus. That's a picture from the front of the Ephesus Library, the Celsus Library. Keep going. Okay, and this is the Temple of Artemis. And Artemis was you remember the
goddess
in the book of Acts where it talks about there's a riot in the amphitheater, and they're crying out, "Great is Diana of the Ephesians." And this was the temple of Artemis or Diana in the Romans in Latin. So this is the temple of Artemis, and this was the center of the worship of Diana or Artemis. Okay, go on. And this is Pergamum. Okay, just keep running through these a little bit at a time. And this is from the Acropolis of Pergamum. And it was up on a plateau about 1,000 feet above the surrounding area is this Pergamum, beautiful, beautiful area. It must have been absolutely gorgeous at its time because it looked over the whole valley, and the sea actually went up to that at that time. Okay, keep going. Okay, so there's our ministry in the Aegean region. Keep going. So we started, as we said, teams going in, taking teams into the northern Aegean and evangelizing, and our goal was to establish relationships with the people and get to know those relationships. And one of the lessons that we have learned, over the years is how important relationships are when we cross over particularly into Asia, and I'll bet Johan knows about this as well, that everything happens out of relationships. That's the way it is with Turkey. So you don't go in and say, we're going to establish a work here. You go in and make relationships with the people, And then out of those relationships come the ministry itself. And we learned that early on. And so we established what's called the Timothy Project. And let's go ahead a few slides. Here's another group. One of our teams went in. Okay, keep going. And we started in Bergamo. This is actually a rug shop in Bergamo. And we started taking teams in there, and this fella in the middle became a Christian. And that's where the whole thing took off for us. Later, it all blew up in our face, but at that point, there was a church, well-established church in there, and then that just blew up, and there's been a whole different modern church established in Bergamo. Keep going. And this is the couple. Caroline can explain this couple.
First, I have to see who they are.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the Turkish couple who are now pastoring the church in Pergamum. And we're so proud of them, and we're so praying for them. And we're very excited about going back. We had planned to go to Turkey this fall, to go back to Turkey. And you have to kind of watch the news there to understand what's happening. Turkey is cozying up to Iran, very much so. And so we're kind of watching that development because Frank got arrested in Pergamum. He got put in jail in Pergamum. We have to watch what we do when we're there. So we're not real anxious about running in when there's a move toward Iran, a move against the United States and the United States presence in Turkey. So we're planning to go in the spring. We're praying that things will open up a little bit more, and we're able to get back into the country. So that's our future there. One of the things that we have learned about Turkey is that it is a shame-based culture. We are not a shame-based culture. We are a guilt-based culture. In a shame-based culture, it doesn't matter if you lie, cheat, or steal, as long as you get away with it. If you get away with it, it's fine. You make us proud. You make the Turks proud if you get away with it. So we are really careful about relationships and really careful about who we associate with and trust in Turkey. But it's been, how many years? 35? Since we've been working there, so we've had a lot of experience.
Okay, so in the, go ahead. Couple more. Okay, Timothy Project. In about the year 2002, I had just finished a doctorate, and in that doctorate my research was on discipleship, leadership training. And so I wrote my dissertation, and the last chapter of that dissertation, I outlined how I think we should approach missions in Turkey, where we need to go. And in the process of that, we pulled together a team or a consultation in Istanbul, and it was looking at what's the next step? How do we do discipleship in Turkey? And so we pulled together when I started, I was thinking maybe 6 people, 10 people would get together and we'd talk about this thing. By the time we got done, it was 95 people came from all over Turkey, and we began to talk about what do we do for discipleship? How do we handle discipleship in Turkey? And then out of that, in that last chapter that I wrote, there was this concept came that we need to have Turks writing discipleship materials for the Turkish church. And that started a project that we called, and still call, the Timothy Project in English. In Turkish, we call it Derin Değişim, which means deep change. So the whole idea was, how can we see deep change in Turkish culture? So we want to see, how do you see people really change their lives, and from being a Muslim mindset or an Eastern mindset to a Judeo-Christian mindset, a biblical mindset. And that was the Timothy Project we started back in, about that time, 2002, 2003. And it's still ongoing. I stepped down. I was international coordinator for many years. What they called in Turkish the Fikir Babası, which means the
Daddy.
yeah, the daddy of the project. And I was international coordinator. I stepped down from that because I looked around and I said, there's people who can do this better than I can. so we had some other people. But what we did is we had a leadership team, and then we had Turks writing discipleship materials for the Turkish church. And now it's being used all over Turkey. And the distinctive of it was that it was not a Western project that we tried to translate into Turkish. It was written by Turks for Turks. Mm-hmm. So it was written with Turkish illustrations from a Turkish viewpoint and so on. And so it's been very instrumental in seeing change take place in Turkish culture. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up. So as Caroline said, we are planning to take a trip in the spring, go back again. And what our ministry is now, that northern Aegean region that we pointed to back there, we are supporting church planters in that region. So when we go back to that region, and we have been doing this ever since we started, we always go to that particular northern Aegean region and meet with all the church planters and encourage them and pray with them and minister to them and minister in the churches and so on. And so that's what God has laid on our hearts now. So that's what we're doing. And so as part of that, I really want to thank you.
Amen.
That this church has partnered with us over the years, for many years now. This church has been part of that sending team so that we can go out and make a difference in Turkey. And so we're really excited to be here. We've been coming back to this church not very often because it's a long way from Tucson, but we're really happy to be here and to be to see you and to thank you for what you've done and for the partnership that we've had.
Thank you for your faithfulness and thank you for your support. You guys are a blessing to us. God bless you.